Hello, Hunslet and Riverside Ward, it's Cllr Ray here with my weekly Ask Paul Live, my 45-minute Q&A with you, the residents of Hunslet and Riverside, and pretty much anyone else who's watching the video. As normal, I'll start with a very kind of quick overview of what's gone on in the last week or so, and I think it's been quite a busy week. And then I'll start taking any questions that have been sent in advance or that you're putting onto the live feed as this starts. So obviously I think the big kind of news story of this week is the relaxing of the lockdown. It was obviously announced yesterday by the Prime Minister that we're from Monday able to start seeing 6 people in public spaces or private gardens, as long as there is social distancing, and a lot of preparation is now going into prepping Leeds city centre to basically reopen effectively from Monday. So anyone that has been into the city centre in the last couple of days will have seen significant new signage across the entire of the city centre, trying to highlight to people around what is a safe distance. We've installed hand sanitizer and hand cleaning stations across large chunks of the city centre where we possibly can, and there's a lot of effort going into trying to support the business community in Leeds city centre and across the city, as non-essential retail is due to reopen in phases over the next coming weeks. I think we're going to have to see obviously what happens as part of that. I think there's an expectation there'll be a bit of a slow uptake to begin with until people start getting a little bit of confidence about the relaxing of the lockdown measures, but we are pretty much as a city council now preparing for what will be a phased return to kind of normal trade. Obviously the kind of other big things that have happened this week is brown bin collections resumed on Monday. We have picked up a few issues where older routes haven't ported onto the newer system, and if anyone who did have a brown bin collection historically for some reason doesn't have one because they can't find it on the app or the website, then please just get in contact and I will get you re-added to the list. There have been some issues from the old system to the new one. Beyond that, it's pretty much just been hearing what the government's been telling us. So in terms of the kind of other main things, our cleaner neighbourhoods teams will from Monday be going back to their normal routines from what we've been told. So we've already started the proactive litter bin collections again. Proactive litter picking starts again from the beginning of next week. Bulky collections have, under the appointment scheme, seem to have worked quite well. And beyond that, that's probably in terms of kind of the main kind of updates we have as a council. It is really just preparing for the reopening of our local economy over the next couple of weeks and how that's going to impact retail. Oh, I should mention there have been 2 quite serious police incidents in the ward in the last week. There was a serious sexual attack, or at least being investigated as such, near the Engine public house. That is currently being investigated by the police, and the person that is the victim has not sustained, from what the police have told us, any life-threatening injuries in that sense, but obviously quite a serious incident. We also had quite a violent incident on Beeston Hill on Greenmount Street yesterday lunchtime, where it looks like there was a premeditated attack where someone's tried to drive a car into somebody. They then jumped out with machetes and baseball bats and had a fight in the street. The police are dealing with that as a targeted attack, and they do have someone in custody at the moment. Beyond that though, crime across the ward has been relatively low, apart from those 2 rather serious incidents. So that's that in terms of kind of updates from me. So some kind of questions that I've been sent during the week, which I'll go through first, and then hopefully if anyone's got any questions then they can let me know. One of the questions was around community litter picking, something that was an issue at the beginning of the lockdown. From the council's perspective, again, it's all enforced by the police, but the police bearing in mind that actually as long as people are social distancing, they're taking an approach which is you can go out and litter pick as long as you're not doing it in what will now be more than 6 people, and you are keeping the social distancing guidelines. So for all those active litter pickers in our community, you've pretty much got the green light now to go ahead and do small group sessions, but you must be socially distanced as you're doing it, so that's maintaining the 2 metre rule while it's still 2 metres. One of the other questions we've got is around car parking charges. At the moment we are still not charging for use of Leeds City Council car parking bays. That has not changed. I think as the economy in Leeds opens up over the next couple of weeks, there will probably be a review of that, but as it stands at the moment there are no charges to use any parking bays or Leeds City Council owned parking areas, etc. at the moment. We are still asking people to try and make sure they're only using it where necessary. The latest update we've also had in terms of travel is we're expecting that the bus system to have around 20% capacity. So first went to their current social distancing model about a week ago, and they are being able to carry about 20% of their normal capacity. But take-up is still only around 10% of what it was. There is an expectation that will get much higher as we go into the next couple of weeks. In terms of the rail service, the rail operators have been operating a rail key worker plus system. Again, the expectation is around about 20% passenger take-up. It has been lower than that at the moment, but again, as the economy starts to open up, we're expecting public transport to start to become busier. And just to try and facilitate additional ways to get into town, you will be seeing, for those of you that do start to venture out a bit more, there will be a significant increase in temporary cycle lanes and widened footpaths, particularly in the city centre and around our shopping districts. Other than that, the only other question I've got this week is around environmental enforcement. So this is where basically someone's made a complaint against someone else about a messy garden or an environmental issue in the ward. We had put a hiatus on any enforcement action unless it was very strictly in terms of public health need. From Monday, our normal environmental enforcement officers will be back to their normal functions. So for anyone that's had an environmental complaint that hasn't been dealt with over the last 10 weeks, we are getting back to our normal enforcement regime from Monday. So do expect to get updates if you've got outstanding environmental protection cases or non-emergency housing repairs as well. We're looking to try and get back to a normal business as usual over the next week or so. So that's it for all the questions that have been sent to me in advance and any kind of points people wanted to raise to me. I can literally see no one's asked me any questions so far according to this unless it's not updated properly, so let me just double check. No, literally no one's asked me anything, so are there no problems? Are there no issues? I'd be eager to know. Let me just double check. Make sure it's actually updated. I'm surprised no one's asked me anything. You know me asking quite a few questions by now. Notifications. Let's have a look. While I'm waiting for this, I hope everybody's obviously had a good couple of days. It's been really warm. Let's have a look. Do we have actually any questions for me? Sorry about this, the internet's not behaving. Oh yes, we do, we've got loads. Sorry, if for some reason it's not loaded the comments, so apologies. Let me try and catch up on these. So hello to everyone first of all. Kenny, any news about the crossing at Parnaby Pub? So yes, it has been approved by the executive member for climate change, transport and sustainable development, so the crossing is going ahead. There will need to be a final public consultation. I don't know what date that is due to go ahead. Those consultations tend to take 28 days to see if there's any particular issues anyone has they want to raise. After that, it will then go to the final design stage. Our hope is it will definitely be done this financial year. Speaking to officers, assuming that that consultation poses no real problem, there is a aspiration to get it done by the end of this calendar year. But they have said to us absolutely will be done by the end of the financial year. So that crossing is definitely coming, Kenny. In terms of the hubs, I'm not quite sure yet. A lot will be based on, I think, how we review what happens as we open up the economy in the city. I think there's a lot of focus there. We are finding, however, that staff are being redeployed back to their normal job roles. That will probably mean that most of that work's been with the kind of frontline staff. I've got a feeling it's probably not long before things like the Hunslet Hub, etc. reopen, but we've not been given dates yet. I think they're still very much seeing what happens as the economy reopens and as staff can be redeployed from one part of the council to the other. Fazil, let's have a look. Can you do something about my street cars driven 60 miles per hour while speeding? Legal feeling. I told the council. Okay, so if it's to do something in Belle-Isle and Middleton, Fazil, if you can direct message me the details, I'll have a word with my colleagues in Middleton Park Ward and see if we can get that raised for you. There's a little bit of Belle-Isle Road which is in Hunslet and Riverside, but actually the vast majority is in Middleton Park. But please do send me some details and I will gladly pick that up with my colleagues in Middleton Park Ward. Michael, let's have a look at your question. These barriers to shorten the road, which impact, do you think it will have any delivery drivers? We have no choice but to block the road. They've been very selective of where they've put in these temporary barriers, Michael, in terms, because I think there is an understanding that, particularly with what's happened in the pandemic so far, that delivery has become a much bigger part of the economy than it was before. I think there's certainly been an uptake. I think what we'll probably need to see is trial and error is the honest answer, to see how it works. And I think if there are complaints, then they will get fed back through to highways. I think this is one of the kind of benefits of having the kind of temporary barriers they've put in place. We can literally pick them up. I've got a feeling the honest answer is it's going to be hit and miss, and we'll just need to see what happens as it happens. And if we're getting complaints from the delivery sector, then I think we need to feed those back in. I've already had some complaints about some of the kind of barriers in other parts of the world that have gone up already, and they've actually only needed very small modifications to make them more accessible for everyone. So honest answer is just feed it back to me. If your people are having difficulty with deliveries, get it fed back to us. We'll get it fed back to highways leads and connected leads, and we'll see if there are any modifications that are needed. Brenda, don't know when doctor surgeries are due to go back to normal. We haven't had an update from the CCG, the Clinical Commissioning Group, as far as I'm aware, though I'm pretty sure my colleague, Councillor Charwood, who's the lead on this, will be looking at this. More than happy to get a question sent off to see what the exact plan is with that. I think obviously everyone's probably pretty eager to try and have that open, but I actually generally don't know myself at the moment. Yeah, I think Michael's probably replied to you. They are getting back to normal, but they're sticking to social distancing. As I've said, we've not had an official response from the CCG, but I'll ask that question for you, Brenda, and see what we can do. Any update on the Spire? Kenny, not as of yet. I have sent a question off to the project team around exactly where we are. I think someone did say to me a couple of days ago, or maybe last week, they had seen people in high vis doing some work, but I haven't had a response from the project team yet. The stage we were at was the land survey. So assuming the land survey comes back, as was said at the public presentation, that will give the go-ahead for the Church of England to do its kind of consultation to see if they get approval for the land to be sold to the council for the purposes we want, and it'll then go through the planning process. But I will re-chase that up with the project team to find out where we are at that, because to be fair, I sent a question off last week and they've not got back to me yet. Yeah, I can see loads of questions now, Michael. It didn't update my feed, so I apologies on that. That's me being a bit rubbish. Update on the Bauers Bean sign, Kenny. Yes, this is really frustrating me because we're waiting on the artist, and bearing in mind we're paying, I think it's £5,000-6,000, and we've agreed to pay the artist directly before the work is done. I'm a little bit ticked off with this personally. It may just be because they've had other projects they're catching up on, etc. But I will ask our community committees officer, Lynn, who deals with these, to re-chase this up, because I'm really eager to get the Bauers Bean sign done. We approved the funding for this, must be 6 months ago now, if not longer. Yeah, as people report stuff to me, Kenny, I'll try and get it done. It's not always done as quickly as I would like, but I would try my best. Brenda, the road closure at Lane End Primary congestion. So, I had quite a lot of conversations with officers about school streets, and I am supportive of the concept of temporary road closures during closing and opening times of primary schools, but particularly around Lane End Primary School going to St Luke's on Beeston Road, I do have concerns. We do have quite a number of parking issues impacting Morville Road and Morville Close. Some knock-on effect further up Beeston Road around the greenhouse, and parking going into Beeston and Holbeck Ward. What I've said to officers is they're going to review after 12 months. I've got them to commit to do a review after 3 months. I want to see what parking displacement is. If parking displacement is severe, then I will ask for the temporary trial to be stopped. Officers are very aware of my opinion on that, and so is the executive member. So I will be monitoring it incredibly closely. What I have said to officers though is, if this is something that they're finding is having a beneficial effect, and there is a small degree of parking displacement, then I think the solution to that would be parking permits for residents on Beeston Road up to a certain distance, Morville Close and Hunslet Hall Road and Northcote Drive. They know that that's what we want. It's something residents are asking for already, and it will give me extra leverage. But I will be monitoring complaints, and officers are very clear of my opinion that if there is parking displacement and it's not having the beneficial effect that they want it to have, then I expect that trial to stop, not after 18 months, but after 3. So I will be watching that very, very carefully, because I do share some of your concerns. Paula, I am not putting myself forward for Metro Mayor, so I apologise if I'm letting you down there. I don't quite think I'm of the calibre to be a mayor for the entire of West Yorkshire. I'll take that as some sort of positive indication of what I'm doing locally, but yeah, I don't have those sort of political aspirations. And you know, I'd have to deal with places like Bradford and Wakefield. I like Leeds too much. Let's have a look. Michael's question. These school road closures, I've seen the diversions will be in place, but the delivery drivers have access. Yes, so what's happening, Michael, is any resident or anyone that's got a legitimate reason to go there around the main time of school opening and closing, they will be given permits. So essentially, if you're a resident and we feel that you're going to be directly impacted because of where the road closure is, you will be given a permit. If you are delivering a service to that and we know in advance, basically this is where if there's an arrangement for a delivery to the school, or you're delivering to one of the residents that are in the area, then there will be allowances through. These will actually be personnel, so these aren't kind of closures where there's no one monitoring them. There will actually be people at the closure point just double checking. So we are going to do our best to manage these as possible. As I said, where this has been done elsewhere in the country school streets, what they've noticed is if you even limit the ability to get within about 500 metres of a school, most people are travelling no more than a kilometre by road to get to their school. If you restrict it so they can only get to about 500 metres of the school, most people give up and they walk. So there were some other schools I had my mind on for this to be done. I'm thinking of a couple in Hunslet, but they looked at these as easy wins. I think, but the research shows it does work, but it has to be balanced. But they will be managed to let people in and out. Okay, I'm definitely not going for Prime Minister, Michael. If you want something, you know how to butter me up here. I'm definitely not going for Prime Minister or for the Mayor of West Yorkshire. Again, thank you, Paula, for the kind words. You know, I'm just trying to do my job. When I put myself forward for election, I didn't do it half-heartedly. I hope I've not done it anyway. Let's have a look. Yeah, okay, yeah, I didn't know that, Michael, so if you are getting advance warning, happy days and perfect. But as I've said, we will be personnelling them anyway. Kenny, the tree on Telford Walk, I am aware of this, and I have raised this twice now, both with housing and with forestry. I have literally no idea why it's still there. I don't know if it's a personnel issue, why they haven't come and chopped it up and sent it off. I literally have no idea. I will pick that up again. I do know they are doing some forestry work in the local area, because I've actually got an email about today about 2 birch trees about 5 minutes away from there, where they're, to be fair, they're quite dangerous birch trees that they're removing. But I will pick that up again. Yes, Brenda, I'm also aware of the tree at the bowling club on Hunslet Moor. Parks are aware of this as well, so I'm not quite sure when Parks are doing that. There was an awful lot of tree damage caused by the high winds last week, so I do know they're prioritising the dangerous trees, particularly where they're blocking public access or potentially dangerous to property. They'll then go down to the trees that were felled, or this is what they've told me, during the high winds, which aren't dangerous but just in really awkward places. But certainly there are a number of trees that fell before lockdown or during lockdown that they've just not dealt with. So I will pick that up, and I'm particularly aggrieved, shall we say, about that tree on Telford Walk, because I've raised it twice now, and it's completely unfair to residents to have that tree just sat there doing absolutely nothing. Yeah, completely agree with you as well, that Kim Groves is a great councillor, one of my colleagues in Middleton, so shout out to Kim there. Let's have a look. Any other questions? So I'm just refreshing this now because it's not behaving today. Let's have a look. No other questions. No, so I've got no other questions at the moment. So you know, we've got another 20 minutes of this. Is there anything else anyone wants to ask me? Again, this is your time to quiz and grill me. So you know, please do use that time to your advantage. Let's have a look. Let's refresh this. Let's just have a look on WhatsApp, see if there's anything on there. Yes, so the next guest question and answer session was meant to be next Thursday, but it's actually now going to be on Monday, because the person that wants to do it can't do next Thursday. So the guest question and answer session I'm doing next will be on Monday the 1st of June. Sorry, this is a WhatsApp question. Monday the 1st of June, between 6 PM and 7 PM. It will be Councillor Lisa Mulheron, who is the executive member for climate change, transportation and sustainability. So basically the person in charge of climate change in the city, planning and transport in terms of the actual road infrastructure, etc., etc. So if you do want to come along to that, please do send your questions. It's your specific chance to ask very detailed and general questions to the person that's in charge, or one of the people in charge of the climate change planning and some aspects of our transport policy here in Leeds. So that will be next Thursday. It's on my Facebook. Let's have a look at anything else. Let's have a look. No, so the bus garage in up in the Middleton Centre. Now, not my ward, but I was actually on the planning board that approved the new shopping centre or shopping district that's going to go there. I don't quite know where it is in the planning stage of actually being done, but planning permission was given because I was one of the people that voted for it. So I don't know exact dates. The way our planning system works is when someone gets permission, they get 3 years to enact that permission, or they have to go and get additional extensions. I'm sure actually the Middleton councils will be much best placed to answer that particular question because they've probably had conversations with the developer. But it was given permission. I think it's just a case of waiting for it to go ahead now. Let's have a look. Susan, great. Yeah, you know, who best to answer that question than the person that works for the community team and knows the hubs inside out. So cheers for that answer to Susan. So Susan's answer to the question about the hubs is they're closed until the government gives approval that the lockdown for libraries is to be lifted. So I think, cheers for that, Susan. You're a gem for that answer. The building opposite the railway pub. Now I am literally... Oh, right, this one. Again, I've sent this off to planning. So someone asked me this last week, and I was asked this about a month ago, Kenny. Well, about 10 weeks ago, actually, just before lockdown. Because someone said there was a rumour it was going to be turned into flats. Now, that would be a major application. We've not received anything. So what happens with anything we deem a major application, so anything really over 10 properties or 10 dwellings, is... if it's a pre-application, so if someone's coming forward to basically go, we like the idea of this, can we have your opinion? We get notice of it. We've not had a pre-application for this building, and we've certainly not actually had a planning application full stop. I did send a question about this last week, and I was told the planning officer was going to get in contact. They haven't been, so I will get onto that one as well, actually, because they've been pretty quick with some of the other planning applications. I've sent questions, but not that one. I do know there's a particular concern for residents because I think the rumour going around was it was going to convert it into flats. I think this is the one on Balham Road that you're referring to. So I will pick that up again with officers and basically say, look, I've waited a week for an answer now. I want an answer today. So bear with me with that one because I appreciate that's not being forthcoming. But there's been no pre-application for that building, and there's certainly been no planning application for it yet. So I'd like to get to the bottom of these rumours as well. In terms of disabled parking at the White Rose, I think this was fed back, Sarah, to colleagues in who deal with our markets team. I've not heard anything back about that, if I'm honest. I will re-pick that up with my colleague who deals with that for the South. It's not technically my patch again. It's in technically it's I can never remember. Is it in Middleton Ward or is it in one of the Morley wards? But anyway, the question was fed back to the relevant team that deals with our commercial questions. I've not heard back on that. I will re-chase that up for you, Sarah, because I know it's a particular concern around disability parking with the new social distancing measures being put in place. I'll also actually pick that up with the team that's dealing with the pandemic response to social distancing as well, because they may have an inroad into that might get them a quicker answer, and I didn't think about that last week when you asked. Let's have a look at any other questions. Let's have a look. no other questions at the moment. So, you know, you've got another 15 minutes to grill me. Is there anything else anyone else would like to ask me, or any concerns, or any worries they have as we go to the next stage of the loosening of the lockdown? Literally, I'm here to try my best to answer your questions, or if I don't know, forward the questions on to somebody that might be able to answer. Anything else you'd like to ask me, anyone, while I'm here? Or any feedback you'd like to give me? Is there something you would like done in the ward? Any concerns you have around, well, anything really? Let's have a look. Sarah, how are shops going to cope with reopening? I think this is the big question. So certainly in some of the larger shopping areas, particularly the city centre, the council via the city centre management team is having a lot of conversations. There's a lot of additional signage going up, there's a lot of advice going out from I can never remember the name of the department that deals with it, but the team that deals with businesses. So for the city centre, there's Leeds Bid, there's obviously the independent trades that aren't part of Leeds Bid. The council's been speaking to them quite a bit. For the areas in this ward that have towns teams, that's Dewsbury Road, there's some supports going there with direct briefings around how they may engage about reopening. I know there are conversations happening with the Penny Hill Centre around what they may need to do, and I think certainly Morrison's probably got their hands burnt a little bit with the public response to how they were initially dealing with social distancing when they've been open throughout this. So there is a lot of advice going out. I think a lot's going to be trial and error is the honest answer, and I actually think, you know, in fairness to the government, they have sent a lot of guidance out to businesses, what they call COVID-19 secure guidance around how businesses are meant to work. Some businesses will be operating one in, one out systems. I think one of the major supermarkets is going to be doing a traffic light system. I think there's a lot going on, and I generally think what we'll find is businesses will try things, and if it doesn't work, they will try other things and take it from there. But we will see what happens. And actually, I also think I think the proof in the pudding will be actually probably in about 2 to 3 weeks' time, as we reflect on what the R rate is, the replication rate of the virus, and if that has a knock-on effect to hospital admissions. It's safe to say that in the last 2.5 weeks, in some of we haven't had figures for this part of the world yet, but certainly in London, they have seen a ticking up of hospital admissions following VE Day, and there was evidence that there was some people ignoring social distancing and the lockdown rules during the VE Day celebrations. So we're just going to have to see what happens. The problem with this virus is it takes 2 to 4 weeks for it to present in a way which is noticeable in statistics, and I think there'll be a lot of analysis of what happens over this next 2 to 4 weeks. Yeah, again, Sarah, if you can't stand to queue, I think this is a problem. I think there is probably going to be a disability access question which needs to be addressed, and actually that probably, I'm assuming it's been raised, but if it hasn't been raised, it's going to get raised now. And I will also actually ask Hillary via his connections within Parliament to raise that on a national policy scale, because you're right, if you've not got mobility, then actually if you've not got the ability to stand in a queue for 20 minutes to get in somewhere and you need a rest, then that's going to really impact people's accessibility to some of these non-essential retailers. Brenda, what am I going to do with my annual leave? I have literally no idea. I have not taken a proper holiday in over 2 years. Much to the lament of my partner. And even when I did take, and this is not going to put me in any good light, even when I did take a weekend away about 1.5 years ago, we went up to Edinburgh, I still did emails. You know, I have issues. I'm probably going to sit in the garden and I'm probably going to read a book. I have not read a book for pleasure in a very, very, very long time. I may play some computer games. I'm an avid player of real-time strategy games, so there may be some cursing from my garden as I play some online games and probably lose miserably. But I think I'm just going to do pretty much nothing, if I'm honest, Brenda. It's been a very busy 2 years, and I'm tired and I need a rest, is the honest answer. So we'll see. Kenny, I've not had an update on this in terms of that fence. I was expecting an application to come into the Inner South Community Committee for this, so I might suggest you check up with Andrew to see if he put an application in. I do know myself, Councillor Nash and Councillor Iqbal have said we will approve it when it comes through. We just haven't had an application yet, so please send it. Sarah, in terms of contacting Hillary, literally just search engine him. His details will come up. I think his email address, I can't remember his email address off the top of my head, but I can send you a message at the end of this on Messenger, and I'll let you know his direct email. Denise, yes, I think a large part of me taking a week off will be sitting in a garden and not looking at my mobile phone. I get around about 200 alerts a day of one variety or another, either that's being Twitter or emails or Facebook or a text message or WhatsApp or someone ringing me. So I'm going to put my phone on silent and I'm literally not going to look at it. That's the plan anyway. Black bins, it depends what the scenario is. If it's a case that you're wanting an extra bin, you need to buy it online. It's about £14-15 on the council website. Just literally search for Leeds City Council buy black bin and it'll come straight up. We only give out new bins are free of charge for two eventualities. One is where there's a house of multiple occupancy and there's not enough bins already, so basically they have a right to additional black bin capacity, or where it's a new development. But a black bin for any other reason is a chargeable request. Yeah, you can buy one right now, Sarah. So if you literally just search online for Leeds City Council buy a black bin, it will come up with the website and the application form. You can pay for it online and they deliver it to you within 10 working days. Okay, so we've got about 7 minutes left. I can't even look at a clock. Any other questions or anything else anyone wants to raise with me while I am here? Because you've got another, about 6.5 minutes now to do so on the live feed, otherwise you'll have to send me an email. Give my phone to Peggy. Right, I will not be putting my mobile phone anywhere near my beloved Pooch. Since the last time she got near it, it cost me 270 odd quid. So I appreciate the suggestion, Brenda, but Peggy's not going anywhere near my mobile phone. I don't think I can cope with another £270 bill for a replacement. I think I'll just cry if I did. So no, I always like taking feedback from people, but that's a bit of advice I'm not going to take, no offence, Brenda. Anything else? Let's have a look. A tree is now growing into my only open window. Okay. Not quite sure if that was a question, Sarah, but please do let me know if it is. I've got a weird alert saying my phone's getting too warm. Right, anything else? Let's have a look. Anything on WhatsApp? WhatsApp question, when do you think face-to-face community meetings will start? Literally don't know. We're certainly not allowed to do counsellor surgeries face to face at the moment. That's still the case. Even with social distancing with 6 people, it's going to be hard to do a resident meeting in any of our normal buildings. So I think we are a little bit of the way off of that. My plan is, and this will be happening after I take my week's annual leave, I will be launching a booking system for face-to-face, well, via live video feed, counsellor surgeries again. So I can't do them physically, but there'll basically be a booking system. I'll set out 3 or 4 hours, say on a Saturday. I think obviously I did my 3rd Saturdays is normal, and then basically you can book in to speak to me, and we can have a proper face-to-face chat over live feed. So that will be launching the week I am off of my annual leave. So there'll be more postings about that. Thank you, Kenny. I will be writing your Residents Association's resident report for myself, Councillor Nash and Councillor Rick Ball on Monday. So you'll be getting some more updates from me in due course. I'll be doing that also for the Hunslet Tara area for the estate just off Church Street. Let's see, have a look. We've got 3 minutes, well, 3.5 minutes. Is there anything else anyone asks me, wants to ask me in this week's Q&A? Let's have a look. How do you get it reported? Your housing officer, Sarah. So if the tree's growing into your window, if you report it to the housing officer, they will then raise a request with Leeds Forestry to get it cut back. It is on a priority system, so unless it's having a really detrimental effect, it can take a little while. But if there are any issues, let me know and I will pick that up and see if I can expedite it being cut. But initially it's via your housing officer. Anything else from anyone else? You've got a couple of minutes left. Let's have a look. Been quite a lively one today, so thank you very much. Actually, quite a few questions. I really appreciate you utilising this time to your best ability. Oh, I've got a question. Some more questions. Any chance you can get the council to empty the bin on the old railway pub? Had been asked about bench on the grass at Telford after the fallen tree. So yeah, George, someone's raised this tree again. I haven't had an answer, which I'm a bit narked about. So I'm going to re-raise this again to find out what's going on, because I don't see what the issue with them just going out with a chainsaw, cutting it down and moving it. In terms of that bin, I will report that, and hopefully Cleaner Neighbourhoods will get that cleared within the next 48 hours, because we're about on the normal kind of timescales for getting stuff done. And that's when we just put, yeah, I know exactly where that bin is, so I'll get that reported, George, and I will, as I said, I'm a bit annoyed about the tree at the Telford, so I will get that picked up. And ask about a bench on the grass on the Telfords after the fallen trees moved. I'll ask about a bench there. Now, the only thing I would say is we're really careful when we put benches in the middle of residential areas, because they're like Marmite. And the reason for that is some people find them great, and I think they're a good idea because it helps with mobility, because people can sit there and have a rest. But then it does cause people to congregate, which annoys other people. I am very interested though in getting some benches not far from there, but perhaps not quite as close to housing as that. So let me come back to you on that one, because it's about getting the right place, so it doesn't cause antisocial behaviour, but it gives somewhere for people to sit. So I will come back to that one. Sarah, I will send you the number for your housing officer at the end of this. I think it's the one I sent you a couple of weeks ago, but I will send you it again into your messages. So last 30 seconds, does anyone have any more questions for me? Otherwise, I will call it quits and wish you all an absolutely wonderful weekend. Let's have a look. So, has anyone snuck a question in at the end? No. So, I'm going to call it quits there. Thank you for all the questions this week. I will pick up the issue of the tree on the Telfords, of the rumour about the redevelopment at on Balham Road at those flats, and a couple of the other issues. Other than that, have a great weekend, keep well, keep safe, and hopefully at some point I'll see you back out in our community. Bye.